Depth of field is a fundamental photographic and cinematic technique adapted to 3D animation to control visual focus. By adjusting the depth of field, filmmakers and animators can emphasize specific elements within a scene while softly blurring others, guiding the viewer's attention and enhancing narrative impact. This selective focus technique is instrumental in creating a sense of depth and realism, making digital environments feel more lifelike and emotionally engaging. Understanding the technical aspects of depth of field in 3D animation involves several key components. First, the aperture size. The size of the camera's aperture affects depth of field. A smaller aperture, higher f-stop number, increases the depth of field, making more of the scene in focus, while a larger aperture, lower f-stop number, decreases it, blurring objects further from the focus point. The second factor is the focal length. Longer focal lengths result in a shallower depth of field, emphasizing the blur effect on out-of-focus areas, while shorter focal lengths increase the depth of field. Then we have the focus distance. The distance between the camera and the focal point also impacts depth of field. Closer focus distances enhance the blur effect in the background and foreground, creating a more pronounced depth of field. Depth of field isn't just a technical concept, it's a powerful storytelling tool in 3D animation. Here's some practical examples where depth of field enhances visual storytelling. In animation, a shallow depth of field can be used to isolate a character from a busy background, focusing the viewer's attention on the character's emotions and actions without distraction. Different depth of field settings can be used to evoke specific moods. A scene with a very shallow depth of field might feel intimate or introspective, while a scene with everything in focus could suggest clarity and openness. As an example of enhancing mood using depth of field in 3D animation, let's illustrate how different settings can evoke distinct emotional atmospheres. Imagine a 3D animation of a romantic dinner at a cozy restaurant. The scene is lit by soft candlelight with a couple seated opposite each other, deeply engaged in conversation. A shallow depth of field is used to blur out the busy restaurant background, focusing solely on the couple. This selective focus not only draws attention to their expressions and the intimacy of their interaction, but also softens the surrounding environment, enhancing the romantic and warm atmosphere of the scene. In large-scale scenes like cityscapes or landscapes, adjusting the depth of field can simulate the vastness of the environment, making the scene feel grander and more expansive. As an example of simulating scale and depth, let's consider a vast desert landscape. Picture a 3D animation of a vast desert landscape stretching endlessly under a clear blue sky. The scene captures the expansive, open terrain during the golden hour, just as the sun begins to set, casting long shadows and enriching the colors of the sand. A deep depth of field is used here to maintain sharp focus across the vast expanse, from the foreground details of textured sand and scattered rocks to the distant dunes that merge with the horizon. This approach enhances the perception of immense space and depth, inviting the viewer to feel the scale of the desert environment. Depth of field is more than just a technical tool in 3D animation. It's an essential component of visual storytelling that helps bring environments and narratives to life. By manipulating depth of field, animators and filmmakers can control viewer focus, enhance emotional resonance, and vividly depict the scale and complexity of scenes. Here are the key takeaways from our exploration of depth of field. Depth of field directs the viewer's attention to specific elements, ensuring that important narrative and visual moments are not missed. Through selective focus, depth of field can intensify emotions, create intimacy, or convey isolation, significantly impacting the viewer's emotional experience. Depth of field is crucial in establishing a sense of scale and spatial relationships within a scene, whether it's a vast desert or a crowded cafe. In 3D animation, mastering depth of field allows creators to achieve a level of realism and artistic expression that resonates with audiences, making each scene more compelling and immersive.